Okay. All right, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Real Estate Game Changers Show. I'm your host, Mike McKay, based in the Jacksonville, Florida market. And each Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll dive deep with guests all over the country who are changing the game in real estate. Next week, we will be taking off because I have a wedding to go to, but the Friday after that, we will be back weekly. And this is a live show, so please comment with your questions for our guests to answer. This week on our show, we have Obi Dorsey. Obi is a wealth of knowledge and experience, including wholesaling, fix and flips, multifamily, and even land development. And last year, he did over 150 deals in the Jacksonville, Florida market. So, Obi, welcome to the show.
Mike, thanks for having me. I'm excited for your podcast. Thanks for having me on as a guest.
Absolutely, thank you. So, Obi, we'll start it off with kind of an easy question. How did you get started in the real estate business?
Oh man, um, I always had an interest in real estate, but I took a more conventional, traditional route. Got a normal, W-2 job, and worked that for a little while until kind of had an epiphany that all the big chunks of money that I had ever made in life were through real estate, usually on side projects that I was working on, and
Mhm.
kind of decided to pivot and make this a full time venture. And uh, yeah, I haven't looked back since.
And so when you were doing your W-2, you were doing a couple deals on the side, or?
Yeah, I always had kind of like a live-in fix and flip or a side, a side hustle of some sort, kind of going on, and buy a house, fix it up, live in it for a little while, sell it, um, or just had bought a couple investment properties on the side and fixed those up and sold them, and a couple
Mhm.
rental properties and had owned those for a while and sold those. So every time I had done that, I had a small windfall, and then you know got to a station in life where I kind of picked my head up and looked around and just made a conscious choice that I should probably be doing more of that and less normal grind.
Yeah. And the what was like your transition there? So you were doing that on the side, and then you went to doing real estate full time. I guess what did you do when you first jumped into real estate full time? Like, what was your focus?
It was wholesaling. The Yeah, the concept of controlling real estate with a piece of paper was powerful. I remember the
Hmm.
first deal that I did. Um, it was actually a HUD deal off the MLS, and we called it the HUD Hustle. We put it under contract with I think a $500 deposit and a 10-day inspection, and we're able to market that property, and um, we got a buyer to commit to it, and I made a total of $4,800 that I split with a partner.
Uh-huh.
But it was $2,400 for what amounted to about 8 hours worth of work. And so I was like, that's a pretty powerful concept that um, you know you can control a couple $100,000 piece of real estate with a piece of paper, and and turn it into something much bigger. It was kind of exciting. It was eye opening.
Yeah. So in the beginning, was that your main strategy when you first got into wholesaling? Was this kind of HUD strategy?
Yeah, we did HUDs. We did like auction.com, um, all the auction platforms that were kind of going strong at that point in time.
And back then, were the auction platforms not requiring you to close like immediately, or was it structured a little
We had
differently
to
back then?
we had to double close everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did you, I mean, I'm not as familiar with those strategies, today. Like, could you maybe share like a little bit more about how that worked with those auction platforms when you first started?
Yeah, and they were just bidding platforms. So, it's just a numbers game. So just a lot of underwriting and offer submission. And then you usually had a small window of inspection and just evaluate whether it was viable. And you confirmed your numbers were accurate, and then
Uh-huh.
yeah, you kind of run it on dual pass, either with the intention of wholesaling it or closing on it and doing the traditional fix and flip. But yeah, I don't know, for 5 or 6 years, it was a viable lead strategy. We got a lot of deals done that way. It's since dried up. There's not much in that in that arena anymore. But who knows? With the market changing, it might come back.
Yeah. Got it. So that was a lot of your strategy for, 5 or 6 years. And did you start adding other pieces to your strategy during that point, or did it kind of dry up at a certain point and you had to hard cut to a new strategy, or?
No, it was the main strategy for a couple years, and then we started to bolt on additional channels. All the normal ones, direct mail and cold calling, and um, you know SEO and Google and on and on and on.
Yeah.
As you can appreciate, it constantly, what worked, 6 months ago or 12 months ago or 18 months ago, it doesn't work anymore, right? So it's a constantly
Yeah.
evolving game.
Yep.
Yeah. Who
Absolutely.
moved my cheese?
For sure.
Yeah.
And then at what point when you were doing that did you start? I know you also, you own a lot of rentals, and you've kind of ventured into, some other spaces of real estate as well. At what point did you kind of start bolting that on to your strategies?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure the timelines exactly, but like even to this day, it just kind of, you know, we're always just evaluating the deals that come across our plate and deciding what to do with them. What's the highest and best use? It's a moving target. How much resources we have, how much time and energy we have,
Hmm.
and what our feeling on the market at the moment. So um, yeah, I think as you kind of stay in the game a while and you get more experience and more wherewithal, you can kind of um, just triage opportunities and try to make the most of them for whatever your model is calling for at that moment.
Gotcha. um
Mm.
and then obviously strategies have shifted quite a bit over time. You know are you doing any of that kind of auction stuff anymore, or MLS stuff anymore with the HUD homes?
Definitely not any of the auction stuff at the moment. We're still buying deals off the MLS periodically, and I think we've had it's gone from 2,000 houses on the MLS to 6,000 houses in the last 6 months or less. Um,
Hmm.
so I definitely think there's some opportunity right there just on the MLS currently.
Yeah. And have
So I think
you
that'll come back.
Yeah, have you, I know a lot of people talk about, there's just no, you hear it, there's no deals to be had on the MLS. Do you have a certain strategy that you go about? I mean, is it just making as many offers as possible, or do you have like a kind of way that you're able to actually still get some deals, even though there's, none out there, as people say?
Yeah. So I mean, it's usually just being aware, right? Like knowing your numbers and looking. But I, I know without a doubt that there's deals on the MLS right now. It's usually
Hmm.
when they first come onto the market or when they drop, they're coming back on market, the hot list, or stuff that has been on the market for a little while and it's kind of gotten a little bit stale.
Yeah.
90-day plus type stuff. And it's the it's the real estate agent that didn't take the pictures, and the write up is not ideal. All right, like it just hasn't gotten the proper attention on the front end that it really needs, and
Hmm.
it's stalled for whatever reason. You can kind of pick the houses out with the photos. It has one photo of the front of the house, or maybe just a not professional photography on the listing itself. Those are telltale signs that that's not a properly managed listing, and there's probably some opportunity there.
Gotcha. When you say that hot list, do you mean that stuff that was pending or contingent, and then for whatever reason fell through, and now it's back?
Correct.
Got it. And the theory there is like that seller may be more motivated because they thought they had it sold, and now they're kind of sitting there without a
Yeah,
deal.
yeah. I mean, a lot of times, like you have a deal fall out of contract, and the almost never is the second offer you take as good as the first offer. And that's just the way it shakes out, at least in my experience. So, um, definitely people have made, they might have committed to another piece of property. They might have mentally already spent that money and checked out. A lot of different scenarios, but there's certainly opportunity there when it comes back on market.
Gotcha.
They
And I
they
guess,
might have found some. They might have found something during an inspection, and now they're aware of something. So they're more amenable to being flexible on price or terms or whatever.
gotcha. And like what does your business look like now, in terms of, the assets you're holding, the assets you're going after? What's your current structure like?
Yeah. So we're still doing some fixing and flipping. So we've got our single family side of the business. We've got our, we're probably, we're not, we're trying to limit the amount of fix and flips that we have at the moment. We're probably maybe 10 to 15 kind of in some sort of form or fashion, either that we're renovating or that are on market.
Hmm.
And that's about the that's about the right amount of inventory that I want to have right now in this market. Um, and then we have a rental portfolio that's relatively stable in that we're not it's all fully occupied, and we're really not trying to intentionally grow that at this moment. I think there's probably some better opportunities in the near future versus trying to add to the portfolio right now, unless it's something we can take subject to existing debt, and the cash flows out of the gate. Something with low needs very little renovation,
Hmm.
and then we have some land that's in development that we own as well, that we're doing the rezoning and the entitlement component to, that you know should hopefully be done by the end of the year. So that's what we've got going at the moment.
Yeah. And I remember you saying, a while back when we met, or we were talking on the phone maybe, that you had kind of made your personal focus at that point land. Um, could you maybe share a little bit more about maybe why you did that, and kind of what types of land you're looking for, like what type of land you view as that has value in today's market, or how you can create value maybe from that?
Yeah, no, I think you kind of hit it on the head. Creating values, really what we're trying to do with it, right? So we're looking for, it can be as small as 4 or 5 acres depending on location, but ideally like 10 to 50 acre parcels, and
Hmm.
just in the path of growth. Um, so something that is kind of on the outskirts of town, but is definitely growing, and you know we're more going for the single family home development angle on the land,
Hmm.
and just capturing some of the it's worth what it's worth for what it's zoned and what it's being used for currently, but the hidden value is what the potential is, right, with the right zoning and right plan, and So we're buying it. We're doing the soil samples. We're doing the land surveying. Finding out where the utilities are and having a plan for that. Coming up with solving a lot of those problems or getting a lot of those answers um, so that they're knowns, and then getting it rezoned and getting it entitled, and then reselling it or potentially taking it vertical.
Got it. Um, and what is that like? Is the buyer there ultimately someone who's like a Lennar or a KB Homes, or who's the buyer after you've done all that kind of legwork there?
Yeah, it could be one of the national builders. It could also just be a, a mid-size local home builder. You know, the the market, the market, ultimately let the market decide who wants to buy it. But yeah, I mean, it could be the the little general contractor that wants to build a couple spec houses. It could be the one of the big national guys. Anywhere between, doesn't matter.
Oh, you froze for a second there. Could you say the last part one more time? You said a
I
little
said
guy, it could be a little guy or
yeah, a little guy or one of the national builders, like on either end of the spectrum. You know,
yep.
yeah, or even a build to rent um, partner. So it could be any of those.
And then you mentioned entitling the properties. I mean, I don't, I've heard that word before, but don't really know exactly what goes into that. What does go into entitling a property, and what is that process like? How long does it typically take?
It always takes longer than you think, and it'll always cost more than you think. It's just like
Yep.
fixing and flipping animals.
Yep.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's a fairly lengthy process. Anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, just depending on what's involved with it. Um, it involves engineers and surveyors and utility companies and getting that all threaded together. So you're actually uh, presenting a plan to the city that they can understand and agree to,
Hmm.
that allows the land to be, take it from rural agricultural land to an entitled PUD that has streets and drainage and um, sewer and water and the whole nine yards, like and broken into 60 foot wide lots with a plan that you can actually break ground and do the horizontal development. That's the entitlement process.
Got it. So it goes as far as actually platting out those individual lots there.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then you had mentioned before as well, like, sometimes you're considering taking those projects vertical. Could you explain to people what that means by taking a project vertical?
Yeah. So, I mean, just vertical is exactly that, just building. So there's the entitlement phase, the horizontal phase, which would be the actual, like the sewers, the bringing in the water, bringing in the electrical, bringing in the roads, right? So that's the horizontal portion of the development, and then there's a vertical, which would actually be the house itself. So a couple of the projects that I've got going on, like we're strictly just going to do the entitlement phase and sell that off. Some of them, a couple of the projects I have, I'm leaning towards taking them vertical and actually building the new construction on them as well. I'd likely end up, either hiring a general contractor to do it or partnering with a general contractor. But uh, you know, if you stay in the project all the way through, it can be much more lucrative. There's a lot more work involved and some more risk involved.
Sure.
Um, but you know, it's at least a known product, right? So like
Hmm.
we've done a lot of the front end work. It's kind of like a little bit like wholesaling and fixing and flipping. If you're gonna wholesale, you're just getting the contract and selling it off. You're doing the paperwork piece. That's the same as the entitlement. If you're gonna actually do the horizontal and do the vertical, it's more like doing a fix and flip, and that you're seeing the project all the way through to its conclusion.
Gotcha. And the stuff that you're, oh, a question here from Alex. He said, what was the minimum and maximum size lot you would consider for a land opportunity?
So, Alex, it's not so much like the minimum or maximum size of the lots. It's really just like what's the highest and best use for the land, right? So, like, we're doing a we're doing a couple deals right now where they're going to end up being townhouses. So they're very, they're going to be, 20-foot wide lots when it's all said and done. Those are, you know, very narrow. Um, but yeah, sometimes it could be 1 or 2 acres and it still makes sense. So
Gotcha.
I guess the one thing I'd say about land, it's very there are a lot of unknowns when you start exploring it. So you can't just look at something and say a definitive yes, this is what it will ultimately yield. There's so many variables and so many unknowns at the beginning of it that you really just have to like kind of unwrap it one layer at a time to figure out what you can ultimately do with it. So
Right.
I'm sure that didn't really answer your question, Alex, but I'm happy to try again if you want to put in some additional details.
And then, since there are so many unknowns, I mean, how do you deal with the risk that comes along with generally unknowns in a deal?
Well, I mean, one or two things. One, you buy it at a price that you figure like the worst case scenario and back your way in and buy it at that price. Uh,
Hmm.
or or if price is not as negotiable, then it's just on terms. It's just a matter of giving yourself enough time to thread through some of those issues and uncover and get some of those answers so that you have some confidence and you've got some of that information vetted out.
Got it. And when you say terms, you mean like a longer contract
Yeah,
period so that you can do kind of your due diligence and
correct. Yeah, just a longer due diligence phase.
yeah. And for the people who haven't done anything with land, I mean, what typically are those? What's a longer due diligence phase for land? I mean, obviously, wholesaling a house, if you get 30 days, I mean, that's a long due diligence period. But if you're doing land, it sounds like you'd probably want, especially if you're not stealing the deal, it sounds like you'd probably want quite a bit of time there.
Yeah, 6 months, 12 months is not unreasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like,
Again, each of those is a little bit subjective as well. It's just a matter of what the exact piece of dirt is and what is known and what's unknown and what do you have to to figure out.
okay. And what made you decide? Because you were doing a lot of single family stuff and some multifamily stuff as well. Like, what made you decide to shift some of your personal focus to the land?
Yeah, so the wholesaling and the fixing and flipping is still the bread and butter of the business. The land stuff is just, there's a um, one. It's been doing the same thing for a little while. You kind of want to do something a little bit different, right? So like it scratches that kind of entrepreneurial, uh, shiny object thing for me. So there's the selfish component of that.
Sure.
But the other thing is, uh, you know, I think affordable housing in Jax is not going to like it's still going to be needed no matter what. And instead of doing one fix and flip, this would be 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 uh,
Hmm.
projects. So there's some scale there that is hard to get any other way.
Hmm.
And and then there's an exponential component to the uh, to the project, right? You can there's just a lot. You're dealing with a lot bigger of projects. There's a lot more zeros behind it. It's just it's the natural evolution of things. You're just getting into bigger and better deals.
Yeah. And you mentioned before, like, built to rent versus, I guess the traditional development, which is really, build to sell to a family who's gonna live there. For the projects that you're seeing all the way through, are you leaning more towards one or the other for yourself, or is it really just kind of deal by deal what you would feel would make the most sense for the stuff that you're gonna see to the end?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be deal by deal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the some of these projects are probably another 12 to 18 months in the future, from a time that I would actually like take them vertical and be selling them. So there's a lot of runway between now and then. A lot of I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, let alone 12 to 18 months. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Sure. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I guess like onto some other sides of your business, I know you were working on some multifamily projects for a while. Do you still have those? Like what's
Mhm.
your where are you standing with those?
Yeah, I mean, small multifamily, I think, is not going out of style anytime soon either. And the stuff that we bought, and that we own is in most of it's in Riverside, which is a desirable part of town that is still in vogue, and rents are increasing. So we've stabilized the properties and financed them right. So we plan to keep them for the long term, and are open to buying and holding more in that area as well. So um, yeah, the historic stuff is definitely uh, a little challenging to renovate because it's older stock, and typically a lot more. Um, Nothing is square, and there's just reno- a lot more in renovating an old property. But they're very nice assets that hold their value very well. Um, so
And are those mostly, when you say smaller multifamily, are you talking, 4 units, 6 units, or how big are some of these properties that you're working on?
yeah, I mean there are some quads, some 8 units, a 10 unit, that sort of thing. Just small multifamily.
Gotcha. Um, and then on the wholesaling side of your business, or I guess the direct to seller side, you guys obviously fix and flip some of it. You guys are doing quite a few deals on that side. So what is like the current structure of that side of the business, and what are you seeing kind of shift in these last few months on the wholesaling side?
Yeah. So the last question first. I mean, we're definitely seeing a softening of the market. We talked about it earlier that there's 6,000 houses on the market as of today, right?
Yeah.
So in February, March, there was 2,000 or less. We got under 2,000 for a couple weeks. That has an effect. We're seeing. I think I read an article. 29% of houses in July fell out of contract. So and that's not just wholesale deals. Obviously, that's like market. That was Florida wide, but like that's a significant amount of deals that are falling apart. Um, so um, we're seeing more of that stuff's taking longer to sell. We're still getting offers on stuff, but they're not. It's not 5 offers and highest and best. It's 30 showings and one offer, right?
Hmm.
So that tempo
Yeah.
has slowed down a fair amount. Um, but yeah, I think still the best priced, best condition assets are going to be the stuff that gets bought, and so we're still seeing success bringing properties to the market and pairing them up. Um, And yeah, your other question was just like, what does the structure look like?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the fundamentals are the same. Like we're evaluating each asset, making the most intelligent offer that we can, negotiating the best price and terms that we can, and and moving across the finish line. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we're asking about the business itself, like our
Yeah, I'm always curious, this, I mean, the simple example is, there's some people who believe, some operations that are, closing 100% on the phone versus, are you running a
mm,
kind of larger sales team running all in-person appointments? And have you, that's just one example, but of the structure of the business. But how do you guys feel, or how do you feel about that?
yeah, yeah. So we've got some lead managers that are virtual and they're overseas and they do the lead qualification and appointment setting for us. And then we've got in-house domestic team members that will either close over the phone or go in person, depending on the location, the seller's physical location, just you know the normal challenges there. But whatever we feel is the best approach on that particular asset with the situation, it's either on the phone or in person.
And is that like judgment call based a lot on like what you think is most likely to get the deal, or maybe based on like, how good the deal is? Is it worth going out there, or is it really just case by case?
No, more. It's really more like where the seller is. Like if the seller is in town, in
Hmm.
in either at the location or in town and can go to the location, we prefer an in-home by appointment. That way, we know what we're getting. The seller knows what they're getting. Like the there's a lot more confidence in evaluating and negotiating deals like that. When that's not possible, of course, we do phone sales and we'll buy over the phone sight unseen or negotiate over the phone and then go and verify.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, yeah, I would say it's a little bit dictated just by the circumstances of the deal situation.
gotcha. Um, and then how many sales guys do you have working for you currently? Or I guess when I say sales guys, I mean closers, local guys here.
Yeah, 3 at the moment.
Okay. Wow. It's a lot of sales guys. Um,
I don't know. It doesn't
and
feel like enough, honestly.
they're always shuffling
I mean,
appointments, trying to fit them in.
yeah, yeah, and that, and just we just want to continue to bring on good quality people that want to drive forward and want to see benefits for themselves and for the company. And I think there's a lot of I think we've gotten to a point where like we can bring somebody on and get them up to speed relatively quickly. And so I'd like to see us grow that at scale at this point because I know that the capacity is there. I know the opportunities are there.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, speaking on that, I mean, obviously hiring salespeople or hiring the right people in general is a challenge. I think that a lot of us are experiencing. How have you been able to make sure, you're hiring great people to fill, whether it's a sales role or any other role in your company?
I think just being very intentional about it, making enough mistakes that you I don't want to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
No, I mean we do a 4-step interview process. So like we really are try to ask all the hard questions up front so that somebody knows exactly what they're getting when they come to work here, and we know exactly what we're getting when we commit to somebody. Um, So, typically start with a phone interview, then a virtual interview, then a in-person interview, and then typically uh, a final in-person interview slash offer, uh, you know, uh, final interview, I guess, or offer presentation or whatever you want to say.
Hmm.
Um, And yeah, and then just evaluating somebody based on our core values and making sure that there's alignment there, there's a good culture fit, there's some demonstrated expertise or experience that lends itself to what we're asking them to do, making sure that their PI or disc profile is congruent with the work that they're going to be doing on a daily basis. Um, and just making sure that expectations are set up front, and um, that we're giving people an opportunity for success.
Yeah.
So
Can you elaborate for the people who don't know about, PI and kind of DISC and what you're looking for there when you're hiring, let's just say for a salesperson role?
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on it by any stretch, but I mean the um, there are personality traits that just lend themselves to being successful in different roles, and there's personality profile tests that give you some insight into uh, how viable somebody would how their personality traits and their likes and dislikes would suit them to a particular role. And so it's a there's different lines of thinking: culture index, PI, predictive index, and then DISC. And I'm sure there's Briggs and Myers. There's a whole bunch of different um, profile testing out there. We typically use DISC or we'll use PI, and you know like Captain and Venture. Or, I'm sorry, Voyager, and uh, drawing a blank on the other one. But those tend to be the best for sales roles, provided that it's um, kind of run the way that ours is, where there's that in-home buying experience where that's kind of an important component of it.
Got it. Because certain roles, like those certain profiles they may not do as well, like if they're closing on the phone because they thrive with that in-person experience or
Well, yeah, exactly. So, phone sales is a little bit more repetitive, right? Less variety. Um, doing same environment day after day.
Mhm.
Whereas there are different and a little more. That's a little more structured, right? So those are going to get you know maybe more buoys in place. So a little more oversight. So that might not be good for a captain profile, for instance.
because they wouldn't like all the oversight that they have to deal with, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, rebel against it a little bit.
I laugh because my profile is a venturer. I don't do well with
Yeah, yeah,
with supervision.
yeah, yeah.
A is
Mine as
off the
well.
chart.
Yeah,
Um, and then I know I mean, pretty big on, you know, sales training and, getting your guys onboarded correctly. I mean, I think that's such a huge piece of this business and something that I'm, also passionate about. What have you found to be successful? Training your sales guys and, making sure that they have the tools they need to be successful.
yeah. Well, yeah, definitely, definitely a big proponent of sales training. We've been leveraging Steve Trang's sales training for the last, I don't know, year and a half, I guess. Um, it's Sandler based, but it's customized for real estate investing, and we've just seen a lot of benefit with it. If we're not able to have those high level conversations and solve people's problems, then we're not able to add value to the situation and help people and have a viable business at the same time. So like it's definitely necessary and needed. And we've seen benefit from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I know like a big thing in our, business that, we see is, sellers, even though they're motivated, of course, the original number they tell you, is not the number that you ultimately end up buying the property at. Sometimes you walk into a property, they want 150,000, and you walk out the door with a contract for 75, which is, the right number to buy it at. How do you, the reason I ask this question is people who are outside of our business are always shocked. How can you possibly negotiate someone who wants 150,000 to 75,000? Um, I mean, how do you guys approach doing that with those sellers where the price is just, their initial price is super far off from what you can actually pay?
Well, I mean, we're usually just trying to evaluate what they ultimately need to move to their next, their next station. Like, it's less about what the property is worth and more about like how much cash do you really need at the closing table to allow you to do X, right? So
Yeah,
that's the number. That's the real problem that we're ultimately trying to solve. And so having that proper frame to kind of begin with, or at least maybe not to begin with in the conversation, but to begin with in the negotiations is really important. Um, so, and we want our main core value is to be fair, right? Like that's our leading core value.
sure.
Like I want to be able to go to the grocery store and run into a seller and not have to turn around and walk the other way, right? Like I want to be able
Yeah,
to. I've been in Jacksonville for a long time. I plan on being here for a real long time. Like I want to treat people right because it's a small town, and not only is it just who we are, but it's just good business as well, right? Like it's just the right thing to do. So we want a good deal. If we don't buy a good deal, we'll go out of business. But at the same time, we want a fair deal. And so
yeah,
just going in with that mindset, knowing that you know there's a pro if we're going to be able to help this seller, there's a problem that we need to solve, and just understanding what that problem really is and what the dollar amount that they need to really solve the problem, if that makes any sense.
yeah. No,
So
absolutely. Um, and yeah, I know you guys get quite a bit of business from referrals as well. So obviously, your kind of reputation has been good, where people are referring you business. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? How, where you're kind of and how you built that up over the years, and how that referral business is a big part of your company?
yeah, I mean, I think just doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, right? Like it's really just that really basic stuff, and then giving people a good experience. You know, if you say you're going to call somebody at a certain time at a certain day, make sure you call them, right? Like if just those little moments of truth, they add up. So communications, everything. People are okay with things not going exactly according to plan, provided that you communicate with them. Um, my experience has just been just to treat people right and do what you say you're going to do, and a lot of the referral work just comes as an extension of that, right? So, um, and then the other thing too is just asking people, hey, is there anybody else that you know that we can help? Um, you know, just that alone gets people thinking, and once in a while it'll turn into something. Once in a while, enough in enough succession is turns into something really worthwhile. It can add up. So
Yeah,
it's not a it's not going to replace your main marketing channels perhaps, but like it's definitely I mean, referral business converts higher than anything else. So um, you know definitely something that
great.
we're trying to be more intentional about, but we're grateful for the referrals that we do get.
Absolutely. Um, and then I guess, if you had to kind of look back, I mean, you've been in the business for quite a while, especially on the direct to seller side. If you look back on your kind of sales process when you first started, um, what would you say, like when you first started in the business, was kind of your biggest mistake on the sales side, and how have you changed that today?
It's a great question. Hmm. I'm not really sure, Mike. Like we've learned and evolved over the years. Like if I could go back in time and know what I know now, then like, it would be a completely different experience, right? But
Sure. Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
That's really an awful answer to your question, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Is there maybe like a piece of advice you would share with yourself from, maybe 8 or 10 years ago?
I would just say like probably make the offer and ask for the sale. I think so many times people dance around it. They him and haw, but a seller can't accept an offer that's not made. So you know
Yeah.
make the offer and then shut up and wait.
Yep.
Right. That long, uncomfortable, pregnant pause, and the first person that speaks loses. So like that's something experience has taught me is just like be patient, like be the sphinx, be quiet. You'll learn a lot more listening than you will talking. So you
Yeah.
know more more of the seller, less of you is a good thing, and just being being quiet, being a resource, asking good questions, really trying to get to the root of the problem that you're trying to solve. Those are the people that we can help and that we can add value to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. William Adrada said, "What is an unnegotiable core value to be part of your team?"
Yeah. So I mean, our core values are be fair, be generous, be positive, be driven. Those are what we're after. Be loyal. Um, so you know, I I think that kind of sums up like what we're looking for in people that are in alignment with our culture. Um, so yeah.
Cool. And then, you and I have spoken before, about mindset, and I think it's such an important thing in this business where, the days and the weeks are ups and down all the time, deals fall apart. Um, how has your mindset changed since you first got started in this business full time?
I mean, you just got to fill your mind with positive stuff, and you got to make some intention break out some intentional time and make it about learning and growing and filling that cup. Um, you know, I can tell a definite difference when I'm what I'm allowing myself to see and read and consume, and tune out the noise, tune out the news. You know, it's okay to be aware of what's going on around you, but it's another thing to you know go down. You know, just listening to the cable news is enough to drive you crazy.
Yeah.
So read a good book, journal, do some meditation, do some self work. You're going to get a lot more out of that, and the compound effect of that is massive. Um, the other thing, I just read a book, The Gap and the Gain, and we're so hard and so critical. Like we're normally, at least I can speak from personal experience. Like I'm my own harshest critic, right? Like I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Like, oh, that was stupid. Like, just on and on and on, right?
Yep.
Uh, that's not the right. That's not it at all. Like we're all running our own race. I've said it a lot of times, but like comparison is the thief of all joy, right? So like I've closed massive deals. I've hopped on social media for a minute and saw somebody close a bigger deal like that day. and it just sucked the joy out of like a like a milestone for me. And I saw somebody else that did a little bit better, and I'm going, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, right? Like just right back into that trap. And that's not it at all. Like we're all running our own race. Half the crap on social media is bullshit anyway. So, like your only guy that you're really competing against is the guy in the mirror.
Yeah.
And we need to judge ourselves based on our success, based on, like, are we doing better than we were before? And that's it. Like, it's as
Yeah.
simple as that. Are you making progress, right? And not
Right.
it's not only just numbers in the bank account or deals done or whatever else. That's not even the measuring stick when it really get down to it. Just are you a better person? More are you more content? Are are you happier? Not just gleefully happy, but like, just, are you more at peace? Like, that's the stuff that really matters. So,
Yeah.
you know, however much self work you need to do in order to get there, that's the mindset that's critical.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that of being your own harshest critic. I remember I wholesaled a deal to Hunter Hayden a while back, and it was a good size wholesale deal. It was a 40 grand rip. And he was like, after we did it, he was like, "Oh, how do you feel about it?" And I was like, "I don't feel anything." He's like,
Yeah,
"Dude, you should feel good about it. Like it's the biggest wholesale deal you've done so far." And I was like, "Man, I really gotta work on that because it's a problem." I was already on
yeah,
to the next thing 20 minutes after the assignment was signed. So there didn't even think that it was a good thing. So it's definitely
yeah.
something I got to work on. Um, and then, you mentioned a lot of things you do to stay in the right mindset. Meditation, journaling, self improvement. Obviously not getting sucked into the cable news. Um, is there one thing that's really worked well for you, maybe in the last 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, actually, let me see if I got one real quick. So I've got this little elite journal. It's from Don Werner with DLP. They've come out with. I went to one of their events a couple weeks ago, and I mean, the journal is outstanding. Like, it's a happy marriage of like productivity, mindset, and um, just not getting caught up in the whirlwind, but really kind of doing doing the work that really matters. That kind of moves the business forward,
Hmm.
in a really organized way. And so, like, I would encourage anybody to take a look at these. Like, it's been very, very helpful.
Which of Don's events were you at a few weeks ago?
He had one in Asheville.
Okay.
I forgot the name. I forgot the actual name. Like, they all have a little different names, but
Sure.
yeah, they do. They basically have something going on every month, but I think these are kind of like quarterly meetings. But yeah, very high level participants, and the content was really outstanding.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was there something, like one thing that you took away from that event that you kind of implemented afterward?
I mean, our kind of like work in progress, right? Like, the implementation, but the ideas are easy, right? The
Yeah.
implementation's hard.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think the one thing would probably be just the journal, just because it's very easy to implement into our existing kind of process.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like, there's not what we're doing is not rocket science, right? Like,
Yeah.
doing it consistently, doing it, improving, like, that's where the real rubber meets the road. So,
Yeah. And then obviously, mindset for you as the founder or owner of the company is important, but also mindset of your team. How do you help
Mhm.
your team deal with that mindset? And I always say the sales guys because they're always dealing with up and downs, but even the team as a whole, like how do you keep them all rowing in the right direction with a good mindset?
Yeah, I'll share this with you. I've shared it with. I learned it from somebody, and I've seen benefit from it. So I try to make sure I share it out as well. But something we've done that's like really easy, and we've seen a lot of benefit from is we've started a thread. It's in Google, so it's like a Google chat, but it's an
Mhm.
attitude of gratitude thread. And every morning is everybody in the company just puts something that they're personally grateful for, usually around family, and then professionally grateful for around the company, around something, one of their coworkers, right, lifting somebody else up. And then the third thing is something about themselves, like a character trait or um, maybe a particular success that they've had individually that they're grateful for. And everybody in the company, it takes, literally 60 seconds or less. Um, but we've seen so much benefit from just doing that, doing it consistently. Uh, I've learned more about my team than I would have ever known ever before, just because I'm getting that constant uh, little insight into what makes them tick and what their what their professional love language is, or what they like to do as a hobby, or about their family. Like we get some really crazy stuff uh, shared in the attitude of gratitude. And it's just a fun, ongoing dialogue that we can learn about each other and lift each other up. And like the cost is like there is no cost, and there's it's been nothing but just a benefit for the group. It's been really cool.
That is pretty cool. Awesome. Well, we're kind of coming up. Oh wait, we have a question from Louisa here. Obi, what has been a game changer in your life? Something you have grown a lot from?
Mm. I mean, I just think it's congruent with what we just talked about, right? So, just investing that time to educate yourself, to be intentional about growing and to learn, um, and taking action on what you're learning, and just filling your cup with positive energy. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean that would be it.
Cool. Well, there's always two final questions I like to ask. The first one's kind of a fun one. What is the craziest or most uncomfortable situation you've ever experienced with the seller? I'm sure you've got many.
Mm, 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 mm. I've negotiated a deal from a seller that she had a house coat on but no pants.
She had a what?
Like a She was a larger lady and she had a house coat on but no pants.
That's a
Yes.
fun one. Okay.
It was awkward and not very comfortable.
Did you get the deal?
I actually don't remember if we got the deal or not. I do remember the experience. It was in Murray Hill. It was I even remember I don't remember the street name, but I remember where the street is.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say I don't think we did buy that house. If we would have bought it, I would have remembered it. So no.
Maybe she would have showed up to closing with no pants on
Yeah,
either. So
yeah. I know.
that's hilarious. Um, so there's a second question is, there's a lot of people probably listening to the show who maybe they're just working on getting their first deal. Um, so if you could go back in time, give yourself a piece of advice when you were working on your very first deal, like even before you did this full time, what is one thing that you would say to yourself or even someone today who's, just trying to get that first deal?
Hmm. Just say make the offer even when it's uncomfortable, and follow up, follow up, follow up. That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know how many deals, like, either I chickened out on making the offer because I didn't think, they'd get accepted, or they'd be mad at me, or it wasn't the right solution. I don't know how much money I left on the table, or how many people I could have helped that we weren't able to. And then the second thing would just be that same advice, right? Like, follow up, follow up, follow up, because I know for a fact, like, you know, I've seen it again and again. Like, we made an offer on that deal, but our timing was wrong. We didn't follow up, and somebody else went ahead and got it. So,
Yeah.
just, you know, you got to follow up a little bit more creatively than, hey, I'm calling to follow up. Right? Like, you gotta be adding some sort of value, making some sort of connection, and but being consistent, being thorough.
Yeah.
So,
How do you add value when, you're calling someone every 2 weeks or 3 weeks? I mean, they're going to do something, but how do you change that conversation every time so it's not just, hey, anything changed since we spoke last?
yeah, I mean, just various things, right? Like, some of the news I said not to watch, like, just articles that might tie in, an article about the market perhaps, or an article about, if you were able to have something in common, or a focal point of theirs, um, a hobby, or current event, or something along those lines. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a perfect science, right? Like, just get creative.
Yeah, just building a little bit of a deeper relationship than just a follow-up guy.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yep,
cool. Well, Obi, I know you also do a lot of business with other investors in Jacksonville. So before we get off, if you want to share anything about that, I know you're a big buyer. You buy from a lot of wholesalers. How can people work with you if they wanted to? How can they reach out to you? What are you looking for that the audience here can help you with?
yeah. I mean, if you find me on Facebook, you can message me there. Email address is ob@freedomholdingsusa.com. The phone number 904-588-2195. It's the same number I've had for, I don't know, 15 years at this point. Um, and yeah, we're still buying single family homes. I think we bought 3 from wholesalers in the last month. So we're active buyers. For other people's deals, we can joint venture with people. And like I said, on the small multifamily or land, different opportunities there as well. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, anything and everything. Just bring it my way, and if it's a good fit, we'll evaluate it, and add some value. And if not, we'll give you a quick, hey, we're going to pass on this one. That way, you can move on to somebody else.
Still buying mobile homes in Middleburg?
I'll buy mobile homes in Middlebury. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a good deal, man. For both of us. Um,
Yeah,
well, awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to be on the show. You're obviously a wealth of knowledge. Everyone, don't hesitate to reach out to Obi. I've messaged him quite a bit on Facebook, especially when I have a land deal that I don't really know if it's a deal or what I should do with. So, guys, definitely use him as a resource. Send him some deals, and thanks everyone for tuning in today.
absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mike. Congratulations on all your success.
Thanks, man.
All right. Take care.